Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Lick My Brain. On today's episode, I'm super excited to have a very important person to me, Miss Chloe Padalino.
Catalina.
Padalino. It's the funnest name in the world to say, so just keep saying it. It's really good. Um, I met Chloe, Miss Chloe. She is a licensed social worker and Reiki master. And we met in Mexico on my Teotihuacan retreat last year. And I had a very bad experience with just my one little foot that was just at the end of the trip, just took a beating. And Miss Chloe came up and did some Reiki, and it was the most amazing experience. And it kind of opened me up to a lot of the benefits of Reiki, which I've known in the past. My sister does Reiki, but I just never really connected all of it with the inner self. And so it was just really beautiful. So, Miss Chloe, thank you so much for being my guest on today's show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so pleased to be here.
Very good. So, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Chloe Petalino, as Mary already mentioned, and a little bit about me is and kind of how I came to learn more about the divine feminine was I was kind of working in the traditional field as a traditional social worker in multiple roles. And I loved the work that I did, and I'm a big giver, and I loved being of service to other people. But what I found over time is that it kind of wore me down.
Mm.
And I started traveling a little bit more and looking into kind of exploring other things in life, which really brought me to spirituality in a lot of ways. And that led me then to get my Reiki 1 and 2 training, and then eventually to get my master Reiki training. And along the way, I was kind of wondering, what is my purpose? I had worked in the field for over 12 years. Certainly that was fulfilling work. And at the same time, I wondered, okay, but there's got to be something a little bit different. There's got to be a way I can be in service of others without totally draining myself.
Right.
And so, again, that brought me to Reiki and that brought me to spirituality. And
Now,
in
spirituality, let me interrupt. You started as a Catholic, correct?
I
You
did.
were
I
raised a
was
Catholic.
raised in the Catholic Church. I went to an all girls Catholic school from middle school onward through high school. So yeah, I grew up in the traditional, patriarchy really of the Catholic Church. And so there was a lot of relearning, undoing in a lot of ways that I had to do, deprogramming that I had to do through my spiritual exploration in the past, many years.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about Mother Gaia and the divine, and you and I connected over Mary Magdalene, and that was fascinating to me because there's so much of Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene that I have been kind of taking a deep dive into, and
Yeah.
you do see the patriarchy, and you do see the little control devices that and just how the narrative and how they're trying to keep that so fear-based. So, what is the divine feminine? Like, do you remember connecting to the divine feminine? Was there like some particular moment that you just connected with all of this and you're like, this is it, man. This is me. This is it. I've got a message. I'm going to get it out. Did that ever?
Well, I think the spiritual awakening process, I think, is a process. But I do remember one time when I was really searching for my purpose, again, after I had left kind of my traditional career being of service, how can I do this in a different way? And I got this download that part of my purpose here was to work and raise the divine feminine. And, I know I'm not the only one. There are many other people out there that are part of this mission in terms of raising the divine feminine here on earth. But when we talk about what is the divine feminine, we really do have to hearken back to how we've been living, and you kind of touched on that, right? So the patriarchy has been around for several thousands of years. And this is I want to be really clear, not a blaming of a man thing. This is like evolutionary. We go in these cycles, and we have gotten to the point where we're in the cycle where masculinity is over dominant. And how do we know that? We know that from the fact that there's a lot of dominance over, there's a lot of control, there's a lot of power over rather than partnership with, which is more of matriarchy, more about equality. With masculinity, right? We see exploitation, incredible aggression, violence, all this stuff. These are indicators that we're over as a civilization over towards the masculine. So for all of us in our all of our well-being, it's time to be shifting more towards the feminine to balance out basically this chaos that we're living in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so yeah, the when I think about the divine feminine, it's really about how do and so actually to back up a second, our external environment is reflective of our inner environments. So our outer world, being very chaotic, being very power over, etc., is reflective that a lot of us are still holding a lot of the over masculine parts of ourselves. We're
Hmm.
imbalanced in that way, and that's how it's showing up in the outside world. And
Right.
so, you know,
There
it's
was a
about
really, no, go ahead. I'm so
yeah,
sorry. Go ahead. Always.
well, it's about like the divine. When I talk about the divine feminine, really I'm talking about us doing this internal work, both men and women, to like pull in more of the healthy feminine sides of ourselves. And it's especially for women too, that it's being the empowered female, basically. When women have been so suppressed, when feminine aspects such as like emotions have been bastardized and these things like this, then we're suppressing all of this feminine aspect. And so, really, the divine feminine is us reconnecting with the goddesses within ourselves or the gods within ourselves, which are our higher selves. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Absolutely, it does. And I remember during our retreat together, you did an exercise where we were all to figure out, our masculine side and our feminine side.
yeah,
And since a really early age, I've been in that masculine side because I had to take care of everything, and I had that, and I was shamed for being too masculine. And so then
ah,
I'm stepping into my feminine, and I just trying to figure out the half and half, like where's my balance? And
totally
it changes daily. I'm sometimes stepping a little bit more into my masculine, and then I'm learning the balance because of you. And so that experience, I know quite a few of us were blown away by this, like, oh God, I didn't realize, and learning which side is the masculine, the feminine. And there's just so
right.
many amazing tools that just getting in balance with your masculine and your feminine, and honoring both sides of yourself, I think is super, super important, especially for men. I think men, um, there's a lot of men that want to be able to step into their feminine side without messing with their masculinity. Like I'm trying to be trying to be gingerly as I'm
Sure,
speaking this.
sure.
Yeah, it's like
How can they hold some of the masculine or the feminine aspects such as compassion, such as nurturing, such as being receptive themselves, tapping into their intuition? How can they accept those and foster those aspects of self without losing, right, their masculine side? And will that then be unattractive or this kind of thing? But harkening back to even you when you're saying when you're younger, you're like, well, I was doing all this masculine stuff, but then I was kind of like shamed or told that wasn't right. And so it's really confusing. A lot of us, I think, are confused because our society, favors the masculine, favors the logical mind, the rational mind, these kinds of things. And so we're all like, okay, well, we should go do that, right? As long as but then even so, it's not quite right. And so again, both females and males, um, you know, are dealing with the repercussions kind of the patriarchy and the over masculine that's been like over supported. And the work that I do with people is helping them even just becoming aware, like you said, it's like, whoa, I didn't even realize that we had two of these parts to ourselves. So
it's
that's a lot of the work that I do, and I'll definitely do on my retreat in Mexico is, you know, bringing more awareness to this, and then also how to kind of address those imbalances in ourselves.
Mm.
So
And
certainly.
it's so important because it just, you change yourself and then that energy is going out to change others. And I just love being a part of this community and watching everybody just rise, raise their vibrations, and the unconditional love starts to pour out, and then everybody's supporting everybody, and it's like, can we just get the whole world, can we just, everybody come on,
Right.
just everybody get in the pool.
Right, because when
Join
we're in
us.
better alignment, we are
Mm,
we are living our best selves, and we are living our best lives. And then,
absolutely.
as the cup overfloweth, then we're able to share that with other people. And so it does. There is this idea of collective consciousness and sharing with others. And yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you also speak a lot about past lives
Ah,
and other realms, and it's
yeah.
just fascinating. In the purpose finding and the past lives and the integration, all that. Can you speak of that? Because we talked about a lot of really great things recently in Ashland, and there was, sovereignty. There's all this stuff, and it wasn't overload. It wasn't like a mind overload, but it was just so. I just wanted all of it. I was like, come on, tell me
Yeah.
more, tell me
It's so
more.
fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, through my work, both my own work and through work with others, I really believe that a lot of us have incarnated at this specific time. One theory is that before we come to Earth, we kind of plan our lives out. And we say, okay, I want to spiritually grow. And in order to do so, I am going to Earth. I'm going to schoolroom Earth, and I'm going to learn through experiences, because when we're in spirit, we're not in form, we're not in physical form. So we can't really experience the same way. So we agree to come to earth and forget all of our spirit self and really have this genuine experience of living, basically, and experiencing and this sort of thing. And I think a lot of us chose to come in this very auspicious time, in astrological history and just history in general, when we are rebalancing to the feminine, to be part of the rebalancing of the feminine and masculine. And a lot of that is we've had prior lives. We're, especially as women, but also men who are now incarnating now, might have had past lives as females. That's totally possible, where they were disempowered as a female. So, for example, the witch trials could be, for some people, might have been in the witch trials, and they had certain gifts and abilities and working with herbs, or what have you. And through their work, uh, the institutions that would be were threatened by them, for example. And so what did they do? They burned them to a stake. Um, there could be other times, other existences where, you were suppressed, your throat was suppressed. So for example, for me, I had expressed live experiences in Egypt, for example, where a man took responsibility for basically my talents and my gifts. And
Mm,
so, my lesson in this life, my challenge to overcome, is for me as an empowered feminine to become the empowered feminine, and then to be seen as the empowered feminine, which is often very difficult for a lot of women who have these kinds of past woundings. Fear of being seen, because fear of persecution from past lives can be one tie, for example. So, those are just a handful of examples. They don't apply to everybody, but everyone has their own experiences with it, that there's something usually in this life, or
mhm.
or might be happening, especially during this time, that they're reclaiming and wanting to do differently,
Yeah.
to raise the consciousness of the planet, and to change their own stories from their past lives.
100%. And I know for me, I tried to start this podcast for 6 months, and I kept losing my voice.
Ah,
And I didn't really even put it together. And then doing some, chakra clearing and all that, I thought, oh my God, there's something, because I was in that I grew up with the seen, not heard. And if that's in your head so much through your life, then now when you're getting ready to actually use your voice, which I'm really passionate about, using my voice to help women. This is not against men. I'll help you too, but I really want to be able to help women uh, speak their truth and to have a platform to do it. And I know there's other things out there, but this community is full of so many amazing humans, not just women, that are about all of us right now pulling together. And it's like this one giant, kumbaya moment. But if we don't do it right now, like we are called to do this right now. And
Yes.
I know that's why sometimes I'll get up and I'll start talking, and I swear to God, it's not me talking. It's like someone's come
Yeah.
in and just went, "Blah." But I feel like, yes, 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 that's my true self. I can't, let's do that. And so I don't really know where I was going. I was just excited because when you
Yeah, well,
mentioned the
putting yourself
throat,
out there,
yeah,
right? This throat chakra, certainly. And if people want help with that and clearing stuff, I can Reiki and help clear. I can also cut cords from past lives and stuff if people are interested in that. But what you're saying is that, yeah, there's like, we have this, and I've experienced it too, this push to put myself out there, like, this is the time, like, this
mhm,
is what we're meant to do. And yet, what are we faced with? We're faced with having to overcome
mhm,
the challenges of our throat chakra, for example, of speaking and being heard and
right,
using our voice, right?
right.
Because especially as females, the suppression, or you're a second class citizen, or wait your turn, or you know all these sorts of things. Women didn't get the right to vote till not that long ago, right? It's
I
pretty
know.
wild.
Listen to that,
So
kids. Listen to that,
yeah,
kids. Let that sink in for a second.
yeah.
It's just
So
wild. Yeah,
yeah, but time is speeding up. There is hope, right? We've come a long way in a short period of time in comparison to like that time frame, 200 years back.
right.
But it's still work we're having to do. So
Absolutely.
certainly.
Absolutely. And I also think it's really important for women. You know, my I have always enjoyed talking about sex. I mean, you know that, everybody knows that.
Mhm.
So for me, it was like, hey, why do I like to talk about it so much? And I had to kind of get into it. Like, what is it? And it's really about how empowering stepping into your feminine sexuality can be, if that is what you are called to do. If it is men, then you are called to your masculine, whatever that is. But I feel like women have been slut shamed for so long that if you have a strong sexual appetite, a strong sexual desire, that that is too intimidating for most, and they just want to squish it and squish it and squish it, and you're like, cover up your cleavage, and if you show your cleavage, well, then you're a whore. And then I think of Mary Magdalene. I'm like, oh, so all of it is just coming to a head. Um,
Yeah,
if
so let's
if
talk a little
someone
bit
really
about
want,
that.
yes, please do, please
Yeah,
do.
let's talk about a little bit of that. I mean, one, let's just, because we haven't spoken to Mary Magdalene, so I just want to make it clear. What we're referring to in that, for those who do not know, is that Mary Magdalene was written in the Council of Nicaea when all these guys got together and basically chose what was going to be in this book, the Bible. They specifically referred to her as a whore, which was not at all what her uh, full description was by any means, and actually was quite incorrect. She in herself was quite a spiritual advanced person. She is now an ascended master. She had incredible schooling and education, both spiritually, and she could write and she could read, which was very unique for that period of time. So I just wanted to clarify that and use this for education, just in case people don't know. And then speaking to your point about, sexuality and how does this show up, or does it influence the bedroom, basically? And you spoke to, okay, so for example, if a woman has an appetite, then she's going to be um
Scarlet Letter.
oppression, right, shamed, or right, as a
Yeah.
result of that. And I think it shows up in so many other ways though as well, which is it's almost like a newer thing that women are now being encouraged to even have preferences in the bedroom, right? Like, even for them to say, oh, they like or don't like something. Like,
Oh,
that's new, that's novel, right?
yeah.
And just for a reality check here, for a woman to even say, oh, I like this or don't like this,
Mhm.
that's not comfortable for every woman now. And it leads to them not orgasming, for example, right? It's like, it's a known kind of thing, is that, oh, the guy's going to get off and not the woman. Now, I mean, not known, I'm not saying that's an okay thing, but certainly this shows up because the imbalanced feminine when the feminine is disempowered, she is in the suppressed role. She's in the subservient role, which
Mhm.
means that she's not speaking her desires, she's not using her voice, she's not speaking her needs.
Right.
And so that's how it, that's one way it can show up in, in the bedroom, basically, is this lack of sense of agency. And you talked about sovereignty before.
Mhm.
Sovereignty is something so important, so sacred to the feminine, because the past 2000 years we haven't had it. We've been told what we can and can't do,
Right.
where we can and can't live, like all these, if we can vote or not, all these sorts of things. And that certainly applies to the bedroom. So there's also this, we're in this juxtaposition, I think, of people being in the very traditional marriage, a female and a male get married. It's, the woman is then going to have kids, and,
Mhm.
not saying there's anything wrong with this, but the man is in the position, the head of the household. The woman is supposed to be his second, whatever. I mean, these very traditional roles, we're kind of just moving out of that.
Mm.
Um, in the older generations, at least. I think the newer generations are starting to see things very differently. They're
Uh-huh.
coming in born just totally different than we are. They
Yeah.
don't see gender and sex and male and female as binary as we do, all these things. So there's hope, I think, with the new generation.
Mm.
But certainly we're really in the midst of like truly transitioning from the old school and like opening up to what it could be in the new.
Yes. I'm so proud to be a part of that too, because I'm inspired by the 20 and 30-year olds and some of the 40-year olds. I'm 58, so I'm inspired by anybody at this point. But um, I love seeing people start to open up their mind to different kinds of sex, different kinds of relationships, different type of marriages. Where did marriage come from? There's so many kids now. They're like, I'm not getting married. And yeah, there's no, I mean, examine the reasons why you want to. I'm not against marriage 100%. I'm just saying, like, look at everything deeply of why you want to do these things. But a lot of the
Other than
people in,
default,
right, exactly,
default to this is what's done. Yeah.
right. And I love that they question everything. That makes me so excited when it's like, yeah, don't just take everybody's, word for it. Ask, investigate, go look for these things yourself. Now, super excited because you have a retreat coming and you're going
Yes.
back to the beautiful, beautiful Teotihuacan.
Teotihuacan.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Do you want to share more about that?
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it. It's September 17th through 24th this fall. It's over the autumnal equinox, which is a very auspicious time because there's an equal day and there's equal night. And I'm just going to do a little sidestep history right here.
Okay.
Is that way back in the day when we were hunters and gatherers, but like I'm talking way far, far back. The basically the men would go out and they would hunt during the day. And so they, in some ways, this is one theory, became affiliated with the day. And the women would do their work at night. And their work was seeding intention, setting intentions for the community, for the civilization, doing sacred ceremony, calling in basically the rains, and all these kinds of things. So they would do their work by night. But over time, you know, people as hunters and gatherers, there was more risk at nighttime because other animals could come and kill them and etc. So feminine was associated with night and men were associated with the day, with the sun. And then as people, there was this connection with the night being bad and unsafe because there was some death that had occurred at night. So
Hmm.
that's one theory about how it became that like something was bad about female and something was
Right.
so good about male. So getting back to the equinox, we have this balance of day and night, which is also a very auspicious time to balance the feminine and the masculine within
Hmm.
us. And so when I was originally there in Teotihuacan, I was given a download of a sacred ceremony to walk people through on this auspicious day of the autumnal equinox to balance these sides of themselves. And so that will be one very cool ceremony we'll do. We're actually going to go underneath the pyramid and get a special tour
What?
by an archaeologist, which I'm very
That is
excited
so
for.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited for. And I believe that's going to be at nighttime too. So
Oh, come on.
that's going
That's
to be
awesome.
fun. So very much looking forward to that. And there are, it's a combination basically of some teaching. I will teach people kind of about the masculine and feminine sides within them. What are the high sides of that? What are kind of the lower sides? We'll do a lot of intention setting and releasing, as well as the toxic and wounded features of that. We'll go to these magnificent Tolotongo hot springs and waterfalls where it's actually amazing water and ceremony to release. We know water is really important for releasing and rebirthing.
Mhm.
We'll visit Tula, which is the origins of the Toltec civilization, who Don Miguel Ruiz, for example, the Four Agreements, that's where this originated. And we're going to be staying at the Casa de los Sueños, which is actually where he stays when he goes and visits this sacred area.
Mhm.
And in Tula, there's these Atlantean statues. So there's this ancient connection there. There's connection with these pyramids in Teotihuacan, with Egypt. There's all this sorts of awesome history and ancient wisdom in that land. We'll do a day trip to visit Frida Kahlo's house. So it'll really be a mix, basically a mix of history. We're also going to have authentic food at Casa de los Sueños, where they cook
Mm.
for us. Wasn't that amazing how the food was? So good.
I've never
Yeah.
I've never eaten so clean and so healthy, but yet enjoyed every single bite of it. It
Yeah,
was
it was so delicious. Yeah, and so fresh. So there's definitely cultural components and experience. There's history, there's ancient wisdom, there's sacred ceremony, and all people will leave with practical tools, kind of just like you mentioned earlier,
right.
that they can take home with them and continue the work and continue to kind of be in more alignment. And I don't know if you felt that when you left last year, if you felt like that ceremony really helped you to get more aligned, and
Oh,
did you
so
feel like
much.
you released a lot and were able to call more in? I mean, here we are less than a year later and you're doing a podcast and you had a lot of
Yeah,
barriers to do
82
that.
pounds lighter. Thank you very much. And it's
Mhm.
honestly when we did the and I read that you're going into the womb that we all went
Yes.
into.
Yes.
So you guys, this thing is you walk into this lush green area, and then all of a sudden there's this beautiful, like you don't even realize, it's this, and you walk into it, and you've got to kind of duck and move around, and then they get to the spot, he leads you to the spot, and we're all together, and then it's like 30 minutes of pitch black, right? And we were just there's a song that we all kind of loved, and so we sang at one point, but everybody just sat together really quiet and held space for each other. And you are released when you come out of this womb, you release what you don't want to take with you. And
Yeah.
I worked really hard in that little 30 minutes to release this narrative that was not mine. And I remember coming out of it going, okay, all right, now let's keep this going. And I swear when we were flying out of Mexico and I had looked back over, I'm like, I just buried her back there. Like she's
Mhm.
there. And that's okay. And I'm going to leave her and she'll go on to keep mending and keep healing and keep. But yeah, when we were told if I went to this trip last year that would change my life, everyone always said it'll change your life. It will change your life. And it is amazing. And yeah, it's weird to see that this is where I am a year ago. I sat there and talked about this stuff with you guys, and I probably would have never done it, but yeah, it was
Yeah.
the opportunity is there, you take it. So for sure.
Yeah.
So, to get a hold of you to join your
Yes.
next adventure.
Yeah, chloepetalino.com. And I'm offering 300 off through July 15th if you book before then. So we'll make sure Mare has the discount codes and all the links below.
I
So
will.
people can definitely, that's how they can get a hold of that information. I would love to have other people join me and
Yeah.
help feel what's going on inside of them, come out more aligned so that they're living their best selves like you and stepping forward in what they want to do, not only for themselves, but then also for the bigger society at large during this really auspicious time.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. I think even if just go onto her website and check out all the things that she does because she's, you've got one-on-one that you work with
Yeah,
people and
I do
you,
one-on-one sessions, like energy
mhm,
therapy. I do cord cutting and releasing. I also do animal Reiki if people are interested in that.
yes,
Um,
love that.
and I do cards of the Magi reading as well. And then people can check out my YouTube. I give Reiki videos that come out weekly. I talk about animal totems, moon cycles, all sorts of things and
Yeah,
tidbits on there. Also, check out, I have episodes on the divine feminine masculine. So maybe we'll post an episode, a video,
yes.
a
I will
link for
put a
that
link to
below.
that episode for sure and
Yeah,
to your
because it gives you
YouTube and
more of
your,
a history on the divine
mm,
feminine and masculine, like how we got here. So for people who are interested in diving more into that, and those who are interested in kind of learning more about the patriarchy and history around that, it's all on there as well.
all good stuff. You could just spend this a good weekend. Just grab your popcorn and put on a little Chloe and just watch it all the way
Woo!
through. And,
Love it. I appreciate
and
like
that
and
is the famous
subscribe along the
Chloe
way.
shimmer right there. That little,
Woo!
yeah, we all
Woo!
do that now. We all came back from Mexico.
That's true. This came out in Mexico, didn't it? Woo!
Yes, it
This
did.
came out in Mexico, yeah.
It was good. Well,
Hmm.
I thank you so much for coming and being a part of this today and
I'm
helping
honored.
me get it all together and yeah, and just trusting me to have you on here to share your story because there's just so much stuff that when I first met Chloe, she had those glasses on and it was at a retreat meeting. And I looked at her, I'm like, yeah, there's something there with that one. And I remember at the very end, I'm like fangirled out a little bit. And I'm like, Chloe, I'm going to follow you everywhere. Bye. Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
And
Yeah,
now
you
I'm
did, and I
like,
appreciate it.
that's right.
Yeah, I
So, well,
definitely
I
appreciate
adore
it.
you
Thank
and
you.
I thank you so, so much. And
I thank you for the work that you're doing because you are doing work for the divine feminine, rebalancing it by creating this platform for women to be able to speak out, women, men, whatever. But you're, I am grateful on behalf of society as well for your work because you really are, it's very important what you're doing. So
thank
I'm glad I
you.
can be here and I'm glad I can support it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're
Okay, you
welcome.
guys. So get over there, follow Chloe on her YouTube, her Instagram. You have Facebook? Yeah,
Sure do.
you do. That's right. Hello. So, and then get over there and get yourself signed up for her retreat because you get
Yeah.
$300 off right now until
July 15th.
July 15th. Get going. Get going.
Get going. There's limited spaces, so do get going because
Yes. And oh my God, just go for the refried beans and you're set. Just I
there's
mean
way
off
more than
the
refried beans. The
off
best
the
like
bat.
fresh fruit you've ever had. Like yum, yum,
Yeah.
yum. There's so much yum.
So much yum.
So much
All
yum.
right. Well, on
All
that
right.
note, peace out, Girl Scouts, and we'll see
Peace out,
y'all on
Girl
the
Scout.
next one. Okay.
Bye.